So, on the subject of Rise of the Beasts, what did you think of the movie?
Well, before I talk about the movie itself, I need to tell you how ass my theater experience was.
Yeah, I remember. For context, he went to see the movie at 9:30 this morning, and it was just a cluster bomb in there, from what he tells me.
Yeah, so I gotta be honest about something for a second. I have barely been to the theater since COVID. I think the only other film screenings I've been to
Evansville.
since COVID was Heaven's Feel Part 3 and Macross Plus. I got a Fathom Events screening for Macross Plus, which was amazing. And but between the all the Fathom Event screenings, Heaven's Feel Part 3 went fine actually. But when I saw Char's Counterattack, I told you how they never turned the lights off the entire
I
movie.
forgot about that.
So
I
we
forgot about
watched the
that.
entirety of Char's Counterattack with the lights on. And then when we did Macross Plus, they accidentally started the movie like 15 minutes in and then had to like unfuck themselves and start it back at the beginning, which was really embarrassing. And then with this movie, again, I get a 9:30 screening because I wanted to see it, but I also wanted the rest of my day. I walk in the theater and it's completely black in there. There's no lights on. I have to use my phone to find my seat. And then 30 minutes go by. The film doesn't start. People are getting up out of the auditorium to let them know it hasn't started yet. And then they start, and the picture is not like lined up correctly. They're showing like the AMC like branded stuff at the beginning, like AMC just continuously jerking themselves off and giving you a bunch of advertisements at the
I was
beginning
thinking,
of the.
I was thinking that I didn't want to be that crude and say it out loud though, because with how many of those they play in a row before they start your thing, like first you have the yeah, make sure you got your popcorn, your drink, that's fine, and then they go to like some produced commercial with this actress who
Oh my
is
god,
just
dude.
spouting all this BS,
It's
and it's
so
like
egregious. It's like AMC is the most meaningful experience you will ever have in your life. There is
and
nothing
she
like AMC. AMC is the ultimate divine goal that all humanity strives for, and you are here
yeah,
right in this very moment. And it's like, stop.
she's
I
she's
just want
like
to see the movie.
she's like movies are such a magical experience, all this kind of stuff, and I'm like, then why are you in the theater by yourself? Where's everyone
Yeah,
else?
yeah. And we
Yeah.
get 30 minutes into the movie, and I'll tell you the exact scene it was. It was the scene where Elena has um says scanning the statue with the ridiculous space age technology that doesn't exist in the 1994, and
And
the
that's the
statue
weird part.
crumbles away and reveals the key.
Yeah,
Immediately when the key is revealed, the audio cuts to like 30 minutes later in the movie. And
whoops. Yeah,
so and I'm like, all right, I can't take this shit anymore. I'm upset and I'm embarrassed. I get up and like everybody else in the theater gets up and we're like, hey, the audio desynced. And so the manager comes up. He's like, all right, well, I can move you to the IMAX screening. It's in previews right now. And I'm like, cool. I go over there. It's not in previews. It hasn't started yet. And so I'm like, fuck me, man. I'm going to get a drink or something. And I come back like 10 minutes later and it finally is in previews. And I'm like, great. Now I can watch all of the previews I don't care about and the first 30
an
minutes of the
hour
movie
later,
again.
or freaking like 2 hours later at this point, you finally get to see the movie.
Yeah.
Give or
And
take.
so I watched the first, 25% or so of the movie twice and really got to hyperanalyze those scenes.
Yeah,
Um,
I thought the whole scanning thing was really weird. Like, except for that, I thought they. I'd never been to New York City, but from what I could recall about the '90s and similar tech, except for that weird scanning thing, I thought that it seemed mostly in line with the '90s. So
oh yeah, yeah, it was a good period piece. Um, so I guess to kind of get into my thoughts, I I wrote my text review earlier. I went pretty in depth, but I'm sure we're going to go a lot more in depth here as you're like reminding me of stuff I didn't think of and bouncing other thoughts off of me.
yeah,
Um, but I liked it a lot. I liked it just fine. It nothing groundbreaking. It didn't blow me away or anything. It's not a revolutionary new method of storytelling that hasn't been done before. It's a very run of the mill blockbuster in terms of the plot construction, but And I haven't actually rewatched the Bumblebee movie since I saw it in theaters in 5 years ago now. So I don't remember if I prefer that movie over this one. I think I prefer this one a little bit more because it has the whole ensemble Transformers cast as opposed
Yes.
to just Bumblebee being on a solo mission. But uh, so I remember back, you know, even though it's been 5 years, I don't think this was a 5 year production. I think it was a closer to a 3 year production, which is still pretty generous, and I think is generally healthier than trying to like cram all these blockbusters together in a 2 year cycle or less.
Yeah.
Because this
Also,
is an almost
bear in mind we
good.
lost 2 years of that to COVID. So
Maybe, yeah. Well, it was a $200 million budget, which is insane, but it's pretty in line with these other movies. And there was a lot of articles coming out, I think, in 2020 of how they were shooting in South America, and the lot of the money that was spent on the production went to actually improving the infrastructure of the area to facilitate the filming of it. So you had like they paid for like roads to be reconstructed and shit like that. And
ooh,
so apparently the film being where it was in South America was actually a huge boon to the economy, and the locals actually really appreciated the film being there. Allegedly, that maybe they secretly hated it, but according to the press, they liked it. They liked the fact that Transformers had come to their country to be a big economic boom, supposedly. But um, I cannot begin to tell you how much of a breath of fresh air this movie is compared to the Michael Bay movies, because if we point out like every single thing that doesn't work about the Michael Bay movies, this one fixes all of them. So I kind of have it like an itemized list here. So the the things that don't work in the Michael Bay movies are, at least irritating human characters who are either poorly written, annoying, racist, or misogynist, incomprehensible cinematography, nonsensical plot construction, and excessive post 9/11 American patriotism. And this movie didn't have any of those things. So as far as
yeah.
I'm concerned, it's a huge win just on those merits alone. Um,
And like Bree says in chat, this movie actually had the Transformers in it.
yeah, and it was actually pretty balanced, as far as having like well written human characters and actually having the Transformers on screen. Oh my god, yeah, the jump cuts. That's another big thing. So all that I wanted out of this movie was like likable, well written human characters and action that's actually comprehensible. And so this movie had a lot of like continuous shots where a lot of complex choreography is happening and all of it is visible on this big wide shot. And those look fantastic. Like they're all in the trailer. A lot of the best shots they just like most blockbusters these days, they just blow their load in the trailer and show you all the good shots right up front. But if you want an idea of what the film is going to be like, the trailer is a good indication at the very least. And but did you have a comment on that before I get into the human characters? The way they implemented Unicron in this movie, I thought was fine. I mean, it's like it's whatever, because um, I kind of prefer the way it was done in the '86 movie, where it's like um, Unicron's loyalists almost become like a third faction, and the Autobots and Decepticons almost have to band together to defeat him. And it's almost like the threat with Unicron can only exist. This is the case in Armada as well, where it's like the threat of Unicron can only exist as a way to unite the otherwise warring factions together against a greater threat. Whereas that
Yes.
doesn't happen here. Apparently, the war with the Decepticons is still happening on Cybertron, and Prime is sitting on his ass, angry about it on Earth, and is not able to do anything about it. And so he's like, "Oh, great! Unicron and his people show up," which also implies that Scourge is a separate entity from whoever the hell Unicron turns into Scourge in the '86 movie. I think it was Skywarp or
Thundercracker.
Thundercracker.
It was Thundercracker.
Yeah. All right. So the main character is such a such a breath of fresh air compared to Shia LaBeouf's character, for example, because everything that was wrong with Shia LaBeouf is not a problem for this guy in terms of writing or theming. So, first of all, he is um he's poor, which makes for he has like good motivations that we can relate to because he's just trying to take care of his family. And
Indeed.
so he's not an only child, he's not white, he doesn't come from a rich family because if you look at the house that the Witwickies own in the first Transformers movie, they're fucking rich. The house they own is like it's in like, rich area California. That house is probably easily $500,000 in 2007 money. They're fucking rich. And that is, and then Sam is an only child, and he doesn't have any natural gifts or talents. He's whiny, a bit of a coward, is a bit entitled, and the only reason why the Autobots have anything to do with him is he just happened to be related to the guy who discovered Megatron via the glasses, right? Our character in this movie is a minority. He's poor. He has actual talents that make him related to, it would make him useful to the Autobots. He's a veteran, so there's a precedent set for him to be courageous, and he was a like radio comms expert, so he's familiar with technology, which also makes him a good fit. And just in writing and in themes and like politically too, just a much better protagonist. And then let's see, he doesn't discover the Autobots like through some magical destiny that he has. It's because he just happened to be in the wrong place at the right time, or the right time in the wrong place, however you want to put it. Where he was trying to steal Mirage because he was resorting to theft out of desperation to try to take care of his family. And the patriotism and everything that was so over the top in the Michael Bay movies, that's nowhere to be found here because the military fucked this guy. Like he's a veteran and they're not taking care of him. He's still trying to make ends meet even as a veteran, and that couldn't be further from the pro-military attitude of the Michael Bay movies. So that was just like a really that was very refreshing to see that. And then there's a scene with him and his brother on the train where he's like, no, we're alone in this. Nobody's looking out for us. We're doing this on our own. And I'm like, that sucks, but that feels real. That feels very real compared to what real people actually go through. And so I found it like believable. Let's see. And the reason why he stays with the Autobots after Prime is like, get rid of him. We don't need humans on the team. He gives Prime a bunch of sass. He's like, bro, you couldn't even protect your family, your team, your home planet. What makes you think that I'm going to stand down and let you do the work for mine? And it's like,
Bumblebee just died right in front of him.
yeah, dude has got a point. And so it's like, I can't help but find that just more endearing. Like he sasses up to Optimus Prime and is like, you're gonna have to get like try to get rid of me because I have a vested interest in taking care of my people. And there's a little bit of drama when he's getting ready to leave for Peru, and like he unfortunately has to like reveal to his brother that like who Mirage is. And I thought that scene was gonna be a little bit cringy because I'm like, oh god, they're redoing the scene from the first movie where it was Sam's parents, like the Autobots are trying to hide from his parents and everything. But instead it was like the subtle wink and nod at the audience to be like, hey, he doesn't have to go. He doesn't have to go to Peru. He could stay here and take care of his brother and his mother, which is what he really cares about. So he's kind of at odds with this choice to be like, yeah, I'm going to leave my family behind, who's counting on me to take care of them, to go fight with these alien robots, and I might die in the process. You know.
Yeah.
The other human character, Elena, she took a minute to warm up to me because I thought some of her acting was a little bit stilted. Like I couldn't figure out what she was going for. But she kind of warms up as the movie goes on because she is able to like be in her element, you know, discovering ancient artifacts and stuff like that. And I'm like, ah, okay, I don't mind her. And she also was like, you know, courageous, and there's some good theming with her too, where um, a lot of it is very subtle. It's not very on the nose. So like in her establishing scene, you see in the museum where her boss, who is like this just preppy bitch, is like they want to get a second opinion on these artifacts, and so she tells them everything, and then her boss is the one that goes over there and explains it all.
Yeah.
And
So I figured it out.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the line was like she takes what she said, then turns around. So I figured out what it is, and then she starts explaining it as if she's the one that discovered it. So
Yeah, and there's like some subtle commentary there too, where it's like the way she rolls her eyes at her boss, like taking over that explanation for her, was like very telling. And maybe I'm reading a little bit too much into it, but I think there was some intentional theming going on there with like the.
I absolutely agree. It was absolutely intentional. Um,
But
but
and there was some subtlety with where the filmmaking did some show don't tell that I appreciated. So the only reason why she has access to the artifact that contained the first key was the fact that her boss said, "Hey, press my uniform," and she left her badge with the access to the thing on her uniform. That's how she got in there. That it took the unintended second viewing to catch that. But then as well with when Noah goes to the hospital with his brother, um, the administrator who's like, "You owe us the bill," blah blah blah. Like there's a establishing shot of her looking over the desk of her of whoever's at the front desk, pretty much, and she looks up from whatever she's looking down at Noah as he's coming in the door, and it's like you would miss that because you don't know who that is until they start talking. So you would miss that on the initial viewing, but I unfortunately had to watch it twice, so I caught that. Do you have any thoughts on the human characters before I move on?
as for human characters, yeah, I thought it was pretty relatable. The whole just trying to watch out for your family and friends and all that. But honestly, when it comes to Transformers, I don't care about the humans. I'm here for the robots. So I'm looking at them. I'm like, yeah, I'm not getting attached to any of you. You are not what I objectively care about coming into this movie. I am here for the robots. So show me the robots, please.
Yeah, and I agree, but I also know that like they're going to force the human characters on me regardless, so they might as well be good.
I can concur with that, but I honestly think that Transformers as a movie would do best if it didn't have an audience proxy. Like Godzilla King of the Monsters. I think so far of the most recent Godzilla films, it's been the best one because the humans played a far smaller role than they did in Godzilla 2014 and Godzilla vs. Kong. If you're coming to watch a Godzilla movie, you're not here for the humans. You are here to watch Godzilla fight other giant monsters. Same with Transformers. I am not here for the humans and their subplots and their patriotism and their social commentary. I am here to watch robots blow the snot out of each other over a war for Cybertron.
Yeah, and I think
That's
I
one reason
think
why I
most
love
people
Beast
feel
Wars
that
so
way.
much. I think that's one reason why I love Beast Wars so much because while there are technically like proto humans in there, they're like cavemen. Like they don't exist as humans. There's no like modern day or at the time modern day like impact on the surroundings and environment. It's just the Transformers. It's called Transformers. I am here for Transformers. Like that's the simplicity of it. That's what I want. I signed up for giant robots. I want to see the giant robots. That's what should take up the majority of the screen time. You know.
Yeah. Um, the War for Cybertron games also do a good job of like there's no humans, so you don't have to worry about that there as well. But and a fair bit of the comics as well. There's no humans to be seen, but Um, yeah, I wasn't mad about that because, um, like I said, I knew they were going to do it anyway. So I was like, they might as well be good characters. I just don't think we're gonna have a live action Transformers movie that, because at that point it's like there's no reason in having it be live action. Which
Yeah.
there has been talks about a like G1 origin story animated movie coming out soon. Have you heard about that?
Is that Transformers One or is that something else?
I don't know what it's called, but yeah, that's the rumor going around right now.
Honestly, that was Bree's largest criticism of the live action films. The fact that they're live action. What she liked best about Transformers was that it was animated.
Yeah,
In general, she just prefers animation to live action as well, and I can't say I entirely disagree.
I get that, but I think I mean in concept, there's something really cool about like, can you imagine if you were just walking down the street and that car just transformed? You know what I mean? Like that's it's cool. Like I like that they do it. Even though the series' best works have always been animated, so
One thing that I actually think is kind of funny is that they like effectively killed Bumblebee like early on. It's like, oh, you've been the poster boy for Transformers since 2007. Die.
yeah, I saw I was like, ah, he'll come back because like
Oh,
again
absolutely.
they show in the trailer him with his off-road mode and I'm like, whatever, he'll come back. um this movie does what I would love to call Bumblebee blue balling, which is they don't give us cool Bumblebee scenes until the very end, and then when they do, it's like just perfection. Like that, his re-entry was just so damn cool.
I will
Um,
say I would have picked a different song instead of that song, whatever it was. They should have played Dare. Like they had the touch in the previous one. They should have played Dare for his
oh
reentrance there.
man, I was. It's funny you mention that because I was actually really hoping to hear that song in this movie going in, but in hindsight, I actually,
It would have cheapened
um,
the experience a little bit.
well, no, it's. I would have liked to have heard it, but the I liked the score and I liked the licensed music. I feel like all the hip hop was actually really on brand for this, and a unique thing that they did that I don't see a lot of other like blockbuster type movies do is they keep the licensed music playing during the set pieces, and they don't like switch over to the score. So like even though Bumblebee is like here kicking ass, they're still playing hip hop, and I just think I was just like, all right, I'm down for this. Like I don't find that I find that pretty entertaining. So can we
So
talk about Prime's portrayal in this movie because I thought it was really interesting. So this is an interesting take on Optimus Prime. So he's almost like this younger, more brash version of himself with a bit of a chip on his shoulder. And
like
so
Transformers animated,
what like which one?
like Transformers animated, or what I've been told about Transformers animated Prime.
Actually,
Younger,
closer
less
closer
experienced.
to Energon. Actually, so animated
Okay.
Prime is fairly innocent. Like he's inexperienced, but he's not like he doesn't have a chip on his shoulder. This Prime has a chip on his shoulder. Like he's pissed that he's on Earth, and he doesn't like humans. He doesn't trust them, and he's like just mad about the whole thing. And I just found that interesting. And
I find that refreshing actually because it's like how many times have humans gotten you killed, Prime? Like across the entire Transformers franchise, how many times have the humans gotten you and your friends killed? So I'm
well,
okay if Prime doesn't want anything to do with us.
well, it's more like in all of the other movies, Prime is like all powerful, infinitely wise, and makes no mistakes. Right? Like he's just
You
this
literally, you literally have to
godlike all
stab him in the
American
back in
hero.
order to. Yeah,
But in this, it's like he has to be humbled a little bit, and he has to learn some lessons. And it's really ironic that like when we finally meet up with the Maximals, um, Optimus Primal says, "I was literally named after you because of all the legends of your heroism," and put a pin in that because that was an interesting line. But it's funny because in that moment, Primal is more the leader that Prime is known for than he is. Like
yes.
Primal is calm and resolved and has got his act together, and he's like unshakable. And Prime is like angry and not you know in control of his emotions at that point. And it's like Prime will really kind of put a mirror to him and be like, this is the leader you should be again. This is where my namesake should come from, kind of thing. And I thought that was cool.
Yeah. So it's like when he met his hero, he ended up crafting the hero he thought he was, is kind of what they were going with.
Exactly, yeah. And it was, and like I said, it was just kind of a humbling experience for Prime, which I thought was an interesting way to characterize him, because even in War for Cybertron, which again, I love the story of War for Cybertron to death, and you'll hear me talk about it soon when I'm getting around to the later aspects of the production of the video on it. But the way that Prime is characterized in War for Cybertron is that Zeta Prime was the leader of the Autobots when Megatron takes control. And so your task in the Decepticon campaign is destroying Zeta Prime. So you beat him, and then there's a power vacuum, and Optimus basically fulfills the role temporarily as a way of pushing back the Decepticon invasion of Iacon, and then afterwards is like fully crowned a Prime. But during the invasion of Iacon, he's acting like the Optimus Prime we all know. And you have other characters like Ratchet and Bumblebee being like, "Man, you're a natural at this. You really are, cut out to be a leader." And he's like, "No, I'm just a soldier. I'm not a leader." And yeah, and he's like, "Oh well, the Autobot High Council will decide the next Prime," and it's like, but he's already saying things that we already know him to say, and he's just acting like all of his line delivery is just very typical Prime. It doesn't seem as it took this movie to realize how to write a more believable version of Prime that like doesn't have his act together, while still being voiced by Peter Cullen, because it's like Peter Cullen might need a little bit more like direction in the booth to like do his character any differently than he's always done. And if he's gonna be the way he's always done, then he's going to sound like that leader we've always known him to be. So it was cool that they went with a different angle there. Yes. Also, I see Maestro in chat. Good to see you, my friend. Hope you're doing good.
Hey. I only have things that I think are halfway worth complaining about. I only have two major ones for this movie. The first one is the fact that Rat Trap was non-existent. And the only reason that is a problem is because in Beast Wars, they have Rat Trap explicitly say the line, "What in the name of my great aunt RC is going on here?" And RC was in the movie, and they have the Maximals in the movie, but they don't have Rat Trap.
Yeah. Well, so my whole point about that is that anybody that goes in this movie wanting a lot of development out of the Maximals is going to be disappointed. Yes. And I was fine with it because I feel like the movie was very balanced with what they chose to dedicate their screen time to. But people that are big Beast Wars fan and wanted a lot of screen time of the Maximals are going to be very disappointed, because let's face it, like Rhinox and Cheetor don't do a goddamn thing except fight. Like they barely have any lines at all, and you don't even really get a good look at Rhinox as a robot mode at all.
No, but I will say Rhinox with a Warhammer just feels right.
Oh yeah,
something
absolutely.
About that is just glorious.
Yeah. But Primal and his characterization I thought was great. Also, again, huge spoilers for chat. Massive spoilers for this movie. Close your ears what I'm about to say. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. When Primal was forced to kill Airazor, I was not okay. I did not appreciate that. That genuinely made me upset. I was not expecting this movie to actually have like a good emotional pivot like that, but I was like, all right, movie, you earned that. That was rough.
No, they didn't outright say it, but I'm pretty sure the thing that Scourge affected her with was Dark Energon. They don't say that, but I'm fairly certain that's what it was.
Yeah, which that's what they say is like Megatron.
Unicron.
Unicron's like mind control thing basically is like once you're infected with this, you're my servant forever. Which on that note, I thought it was funny that you get exactly one scene of Unicron like terrorizing Scourge to be like, you better get those keys, better hurry up, bro, because like this Unicron is a lot more patient than 86 Unicron because you had Orson Welles' fat ass up there being like, Galvatron, you better bring me that fucking Matrix, you idiot, or I'll turn you into space dust. And it's like, every 5 minutes he's like hounding him about it, and this one is like one scene of him like tormenting Scourge, and somebody in chat, Anime Dude, is like, I wish that part was more dramatic. I agree because in the 86 movie they have all these like flashing lights to simulate Galvatron being like tormented by him, but I guess they didn't want to do that for like photosensitivity reasons. But
I did think the whole like how it went all Doctor Strange and reality was like morphing around them, but only they could see it. I thought that was a nice angle. That was pretty cool. And the whole thing they mentioned that the beacon of the transwarp key can only be seen by Transformers. That's funny, and that's also a good way to kind of hand wave. Hey, can't the humans see this? No, they can't.
Yeah.
This is why no one's asking questions.
Yeah, so I that was just that was a funny observation and not a nitpick. I have two nitpicks though. I have two nitpicks.
My second nitpick, not if we're not including Red Trap, my second one, Wheeljack. Look how they massacred my boy.
Oh, I wasn't mad about that at all. But I do actually have a comment on that. But Animated was talking about Air Razor's death. Yeah, I mean, I guess it could have been more dramatic, but like, Primal's like holding her, and he's like, "Oh fuck, man, I don't want to do this," and he just like has to crush her to death, and it just reiterates that line, no matter the cost, and I think that's where. It's almost like him saying that imbued that into Optimus, where Prime would later, have that as a catchphrase. But
must be stopped, no matter the cost.
So I have the nitpicks I have, and luckily they're very few and far between with this movie because I felt like plot construction wise, this movie was fine compared to its predecessors. But it's never explained why the transwarp key is needed for Unicron to cross the galaxy. Because with what we're used to is the dude just floats his fat ass through space and just finds another planet. And the energy consumed in doing so just, he just eats a planet, gets refueled, flies to the next planet, repeats the process, and that's all he does, right?
I would say it's... If I had to make a guess...
Well, they say at the beginning, Primal says to... well, actually not Primal, the other Gorilla Maximal says to Scourge, Unicron is trapped in this galaxy forever. I don't know how that's possible. They never explain that.
Well, galaxies are further apart than planets are. So...
right.
You think about it, one thing that...
The dude is immortal, though. Like, if he has to float through space for a couple thousand years before he finds another planet, then whatever. I mean, it doesn't seem like that'd be pretty trivial for him, unless he has to feed on planets that have techno-organic life or organic life, in which case, yeah, that might be a little bit more of a problem. But it's never explicitly stated that that's the case either. But anyway, my other nitpick is in Noah's big scene where he gets the Mirage bot suit and gets to fight Scourge. You are telling me that these kids can communicate with each other via walkie-talkie when one of them is in Peru and the other one is in New York City? Really? I don't buy that.
I just kind of interpreted that as Mirage like patched it into his long range communications.
That was the only way that was the only way I made sense of that as well. It's like, oh, it's just space robot magic, but whatever. It was just very silly. Like I was saying, I think that people that went into this expecting the Maximals to have a lot of development were going to be disappointed. It's pretty much just Primal that has like a meaningful character arc, and the rest of them are just their Ape Link. That's him. Yeah. Um, and uh yeah, the rest of them are just there to fight, and their fight is great. Um, I want to talk about the Terracons for a minute as well. So having only 3 of them is kind of lame, but their designs are awesome. I love Scourge's design. Battletrap might be my favorite design in the whole movie. Dude has a wrecking ball and a minigun, and just shrugs off like automatic fire like it's nothing. Like everybody's shooting at him, just dumping clips into him, and the dude just walking it off like it's nothing. Yeah, Battletrap's fucking cool. But the thing that's with Scourge that I thought was weird was his dialogue. So I had to look it up. He's voiced by Peter Dinklage, and I like Peter Dinklage a lot. Like, don't get me wrong, but I just thought his line delivery was just a little awkward, and some of his lines are really corny. And it was almost like, what if we just did like Ultron from Marvel, but again, and just made him really corny instead of kind of witty and silly like Ultron was. And I'm like, I don't know. It just didn't sit right with me. Some of his dialogue was just a little bit silly, and I don't know if that was intentional or not. Because the way that I'm used, there's 2 different versions of Scourge that I come to mind when I think of Scourge. It's the G1 version,
and then the Robots in Disguise version.
Huh?
And then the 2001 Robots in Disguise version.
No, I'm not as familiar with that one. The one that comes to mind for me is the Cybertron version, which he is basically the ambassador of the Beast planet for the Decepticons, and he transforms into a dinosaur in that, I believe. Like, he's basically Beast Wars Megatron, but in the Cybertron show, and he's really powerful, and it makes sense for him to be like a threat when he's allied himself with the Decepticons, and it makes for good drama in the Cybertron show when you have like the Autobots trying to make allies in all the different planets that are that have Cybertronian life on them, and then Scourge is like, no, I'm gonna be with the Decepticons. But I just don't remember him being written like that. I don't remember him being written with such corny dialogue, and it just was a little bit awkward. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. No. Yeah. And Matt too in chat. Scourge, RID Scourge is Nemesis Prime. Now I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. That's what he got inspiration for his design in this one. That's why he was a black tractor trailer in this one, because they're paying homage to the reskin of Laser Optimus Prime that they called Scourge in Robots in Disguise.
Yeah. So that's there was a recent toy of that just came out that looks really badass. I think it was part of the Legacy line.
But so Wheeljack, I was not a fan of the redesign. Like, the thing is, I'm not mad at it. All I can do is just sit there and laugh at it like the nerd it is. But I get that he's the Autobot scientist, but if you're going to... Wheeljack has always consistently had a cool design across every single incarnation that I know of. Like, even his G1 self was spectacular looking. So if you're going to make any of the Autobots be the nerd character, it needs to be Perceptor. Like, they should have made a Perceptor instead. Even in the G1 movie, he's basically Double D from Ed, Edd n Eddy, but a robot.
Yeah. So I didn't mind it as much. I just thought the line where they give him like a Latino accent, and I thought it was really awkward how like our main character, who's also, I wasn't sure if he was completely Latino, if he's supposed to be like half black, half Latino, because we never see his father. But he's like, hey, where'd you get that accent from? That I wanted to speak Spanish to you, and he's like, the line is almost literally like, huh? A robot that would have a Spanish accent just to have one? That sounds kind of racist. And it's like, What are you
Oh,
trying to say, movie? Are you just trying to like deflect the criticism up front and then continue to give him the Latino accent? Like, what's going on here? And uh, yeah, it was weird. Like, I don't know what to think of that, but I didn't mind him. I thought it was fine. It was whatever.
yeah. My criticisms have nothing to do with the character because he didn't have that many lines. It was just entirely with his design. Like he has seatbelt suspenders. Why?
I guess the reason why the design didn't like shock me like that is I had seen all the discourse around the toy as it was coming out, and apparently they had like updated the design at one point. Like it used to be worse, and they changed it a little bit or something like that. But I already knew what he looked like before the movie, so it didn't like blindside me. But if I didn't know what the toy looked like, and then I saw him in the movie, I might have been like, yeah, okay, yeah, this is a Wheeljack. But I mean,
Yeah,
it's that those kind of things are relatively low hanging fruit because we're kind of spoiled that we have like a G1 accurate Prime and a G1 accurate RC because
Bayverse accurate Bumblebee.
Mirage looks nothing like G1 Mirage, and you have in the older Michael Bay movies, like you have Ironhide as a black truck and Ratchet as a green green rescue vehicle, and people whine and complain about that, but it's just so not important. Like it's just an aesthetic thing. Like you can make these characters look like whatever you want. It doesn't really matter.
If you can make them look like whatever you want, why not make them look cool?
Yeah, which I mean, I think the Bayverse versions of Ratchet and Ironhead look cool. So,
Yeah,
um, I think that the more cartoon accurate proportions and faces with this continuity, like the Bumblebee continuity, um, almost has like a bit of an uncanny side effect
it
with
does.
some of them. Like RC and Mirage's faces are very cartoon accurate, and it looks a little uncanny sometimes. Um, Also, RC I thought was great, but Mirage is like one of the linchpins of the movie, and he's voiced by Pete Davidson, which like people in the marketing, everybody's like making out to be like a big deal, whatever. And I don't know who the fuck Pete Davidson is. Like I don't care about that. I don't know who he is. I was like kind of whatever about that, but he was fine. He was fun. Even though I did make sure to go get Taco Bell breakfast on the way to the movie, which is Pete Davidson did a commercial for Taco Bell breakfast recently, so maybe it was just meant to be.
Right. Let me see. What was I gonna say? RC's guns were basically just Halo plasma rifles from the looks of them. Like she's over there dual wielding those, and just uh, all I could see from the first shots of them, I'm like, she's dual wielding plasma rifles. That's what they
Yeah.
look like. That's not like criticism. I think it's a cool design. Um, I had another point to make, but I don't remember what it was. Nightbird, the third Terrorcon. That's actually kind of an obscure transformer, if I'm not mistaken. That's from G1. It was like a drone thing that the Decepticons built. I don't remember the exact plot of that episode. I haven't seen it in a good while, but I do
Oh,
know that it's
is it
a
like
bit
a
more.
Laserbeak recolor?
No, it's something else entirely. Yeah, that's Buzzsaw you're thinking about. Ah, dang it. Okay, good. But I thought
I'm looking it up now.
the inclusion of a pretty obscure character is always appreciated.
Oh, okay, yeah, I see what you're talking about. Yeah, yeah, this is a pretty obscure character. It looks like in a lot of the toy adaptations of her were just RC recolor.
Yeah.
Um, so funny enough, it's funny you mention that because I was talking about animated Blitzwing earlier.
Yeah.
So after the movie, I did the one thing that you're supposed to do to make every Transformers theater viewing experience complete, which is go to the nearby store and buy one of the toys. And I was like, I'm gonna pretend like it's 2007 again, and the toys are in stores. And I went into the Target that was in the shopping center directly across from um, the theater, and I was hoping to find Scourge, but apparently Scourge is only available in a Studio Series, and that figure is rare. But I did find the Legacy Blitzwing, which you can't see, but he's on camera right now. I've been opening him and transforming him while we've been talking, and
Ah,
this is what I've been looking for a while. So I'm actually really grateful that I found him because this is one on my list to collect, and he just happened to be there in Target, so I was like, hell yeah, I've got birthday money to spend. Let's do this. Um,
Matt
but
two says Matthew says Nightbird was a ninja robot made by humans. Yeah, but she was hijacked by the Decepticons later, wasn't she? I know the Decepticons had control over her at some point.
so I have to mention the climax here really quick. Um, Unfortunately, they went with a bit of a cliche with with the climax. They went with the sky portal climax, which everybody makes fun
Yeah,
of because it's a bit of a cliche. Like they did it in what Man of
last night
Steel and in Fan Four Stick, and hell, they did it in other Transformers movies. Like they did it in like Dark of the Moon, and
and the last night they did it in at least two. And if you want to get technical, like it wasn't a portal, but in Revenge of the Fallen, the whole absorbing the sun thing had the same like aesthetic feel to it. You know, shooting a big
yeah,
laser beam into
yeah,
the sky. So just enough already.
yeah, and I will at least give them a pass to where it was well set up by the film prior to that because it's like the entire plot is like a mad dash to the magical MacGuffin to prevent Unicron from showing up. So it's like at least it's established from literally the first scene in the movie that that's what the premise is going to be, and it's not just like, oh, suddenly giant beam in the sky, we got to shut off the thing before the world ends, and like but they still did the cliche, so I have to mention it. I'm like, oh, here we are, Skyfall ending again, but at least it was fun. I can't knock it too bad. But yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts looking at my my text review here. I pretty much covered everything that I mentioned in the text review. Um, yeah, that's about it.
I'm kind of in the same boat with you. It was fine as it was, but nothing really groundbreaking. I don't really know how it holds up compared to Bumblebee because I need to rewatch Bumblebee. I did think Bumblebee had a couple of really good, like memorable moments in it, and I definitely think that the human interactions felt more natural than they did in the Bayverse films.